of a plane crash in Japan. It could be the worst single plane disaster ever. The crisis is over tonight in Camden, New Jersey, in the wake of a chemical spill there. And the Abington Town Watch gets ready for a big night out tomorrow night, a concerted effort to fight crime. Dave Roberts is the actor with the forecast, next on Action News Tonight. Delaware.
Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Don Tollefson, Dave Roberts, and Jim Gardner.
Monday night gospel music comes to Fairmount Park, and the death toll continues to rise in violence in South Africa. But the big story in Action News Tonight is the potentially the worst single airplane disaster in history. A Japan Airlines 747 crashed into Matagorda, 70 miles northwest of Tokyo. A rescue team has just reached the scene, but the only view of the crash we have so far has been from a helicopter. But we have just received word that the team has found 4 survivors so far. But there were 524 people on board, including 2 Americans from Denver. Indications are that a door on the plane was broken, and that forced the pilot to lose control of the craft. The plane took off from Tokyo, packed with people making a ritual trip to pay respects to their ancestors. At 5:27 this morning, our time, the pilot declared an emergency on board. At 5:33, the pilot told ground control the door was broken, and he was making an emergency descent. At 5:46 this morning, our time, the pilot tells ground control unable to control. At 5:55, a nearby Japanese airport and an American military base give the pilot permission to make an emergency landing. At 5:57, the plane disappears from radar screens. Tonight, relatives have gathered at the airports in Tokyo and Haneda to learn of the fate of their loved ones. From all indications, the news will be bad. This, the scene August 2nd, when a Delta L-1011 crashed at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, killing 134 people. Officials have said that the plane had been caught in a wind shear during a thunderstorm, sending it plunging to the ground, well short of the runway. Today, officials released audio tapes of the last minutes of conversation between the pilot and the air traffic controller. And at first, there didn't seem to be much concern.
Some variable winds out there due to a shower on the short funnel out there north end of DFW. Delta 191 Heavy out here in the range, feels good.
Then the pilot got the okay to land.
191 Heavy, Eagle Tower 17 left, clear to land, wind 090 at 5, gust 15. Thanks, sir.
But 2 minutes later, the tower knew there was trouble.
Delta, go around.
Now, go around means abort landing and make another approach. But, of course, by then it was too late and tragedy had struck. The FAA continues to investigate this tragic episode as we progress through a catastrophic month in aviation history. The trouble was on the tracks today in Valentine, Arizona. 3 small towns had to be evacuated when a freight train carrying hazardous materials jumped the tracks. The train was bound for San Francisco from Chicago. 23 cars left the tracks. 11 of them burst into flames. Mercifully, nobody has been injured. Shifting winds forced officials to move evacuees from town to town. There has been no word yet that residents have been allowed to return home. Residents living near the Union Carbide plant in Institute, West Virginia, are upset tonight. They're angry over what they claim was a poor emergency notification system last night when a poison gas leaked at the plant.
My family's scared, I'm scared, but I've got to go back down to that hellhole and live.
Company officials have conceded that workers didn't think the leak was a problem at first, but before the emergency was over, 135 people were injured. Now, the chemical involved in the leak was aldecarb oxide, just about as toxic as methyl isocyanate, which leaked from the Union Carbide plant in Bhopal, India, killing 2,000 people. But officials in West Virginia say everyone there should recover because of the lower concentrations than the gas released in Bhopal. It is the end of a tense day in Camden, New Jersey. Nerves were frayed for much of the day because of the spill of potentially deadly chemicals.
A scrub down was ordered for Camden's fire engine number 9 and its crew, not for aesthetics. This is decontamination.
Our crew was instructed to wash ourselves down and put our clothing in contamination, wrap ourselves in sheets, and go off to the hospital for, blood gas tests and checks.
Engine number 9 was on duty at this toxic chemical spill at the Conestam plant in East Camden. At about 12:45, approximately 2,500 gallons of a material known as aniline oil spilled onto the ground after a pipe outside the plant ruptured. Aniline oil can be fatal if enough of it is absorbed through the skin. It also has less toxic vapors. Fear of such vapors prompted city officials to evacuate about 200 nearby residents after some reportedly became ill.
We're going to be preparing for housing for those individuals all night.
That was the theory. In reality, no shelter was set up, and some of those who were told to leave their houses in the afternoon ended up sitting in front of them.
I was told to leave my apartment because of the danger that occurred, and they said it was hazardous to my house.
Okay, but did they tell you where to go?
They didn't say where to go, they just said leave.
They said leave. They didn't set up any shelters.
No. They told me I couldn't go in the house, and I asked them why. They said there's a whole lot of chemical out here. And they didn't tell me where to go, nothing. I just come around here and sit on somebody's step.
City officials later said no shelter was opened because air samples taken in the evening showed no dangerous contamination. At 7:45, residents were told they could go inside. Meanwhile, cleanup work began on the actual toxic oil spill. That work was expected to take many hours. There is one final note. The highly toxic substance which caused so much trouble here is used in manufacturing at this plant. And the final product at this plant is ordinary, edible, harmless food coloring. John Rawlins, Channel 6 Action News, East Camden.
A nationally known arson investigator will be probing the Move fire that killed 11 people. In the days following the blaze, there was some speculation on the part of city officials that Move may have set the blaze in a mass suicide. But 2 weeks ago, the Philadelphia fire marshal concluded the explosive device dropped from the helicopter sparked the fire. But arson expert Charles King will work for the Special Move Commission to find out what caused the blaze. King is a former fire marshal in New York City. He is also trained in bomb investigations by the FBI. Come tomorrow night, town watch organizations across the country will ask homeowners to sit on their porches with lights on to ward away burglars. It is the annual night out, and tonight, Action News reporter Marc Howard takes a look at one town watch that will be taking part.
It looks like an ordinary Chevy wagon with an ordinary couple out for a ride. But the North Hills Abington Town Watch is one of the few in the country with a police radio. Pete and Kay Whitby are in direct contact with the law.
Car 43 to headquarters.
Clear.
The Whitbys do one 4-hour stint every month, watching potential trouble spots, like a drugstore at closing time.
We like to be there when they close up and leave and know that there's nobody there waiting for them when they're coming in.
And that's when they would have most of their money on hand when they're ready to close, so that would be a time for them to be robbed if they were going to be robbed.
Here's an example of how the Abington Township Town Watch works. About a year ago, a Town Watch car was staked out here at the North Hills train station. A police cruiser pulled through, saw nothing, and left. A man had been lurking in the shadows, and when he saw the cruiser leave, he went to work with a crowbar.
And next thing you know, he goes over to the window of this car that was parked there, breaks the window, and there he was with a pair of jumper cables trying to start the car. And that's when the Town Watch called. The next thing you know, the police came around the corner after. We called the police directly, and the man was in custody within 35 seconds.
Caught him in the act.
Caught him right in the act.
Here at Abington Police Headquarters, they coordinate 9 area town watches, 1,000 members complementing a police force of 100. In the past 4 years, burglaries around here are down 50%, vandalism even more.
I think that the criminals and potential criminals know that there is a strong town watch in Abington Township, along with the strong police department. So I think put those two things together and you've got effective police work.
These people are hoping that tomorrow night's National Night Out will raise the consciousness of people who benefit from town watches but don't participate. The goal is to see lights on every porch in America from 8 to 9 p.m. local time. Marc Howard, Channel 6 Action News, Abington.
Death by strangulation tonight in Delran, New Jersey. Police say they found 27-year-old Teresa Mohammed in her home on Hunter Glen. Police are in the process of questioning her husband. His name has not yet been released. A new state prison is officially open for business tonight in the city of Camden. It is called the Riverfront State Prison. It will hold some 405 inmates. It'll go a long way to help ease the overcrowded conditions in New Jersey state jails. A big ceremony today marked the dedication with Governor Tom Kean and Mayor Melvin Primus on hand. New Jersey correspondent Cathy Gandolfo explains that the new facility exists today because of a compromise made 4 years ago.
The prison was part of a deal made between Camden and the state in 1981 in return for a bailout of the financially troubled city. North Camden residents protested. They didn't want a prison in their backyard, but they were appeased when the state agreed to give residents first crack at prison jobs. The state met the commitment, and about half of the 318 prison workers are Camden residents. The community was also concerned about security. Officials here told me there are armed guards in the tower 24 hours a day. There's razor ribbon, roof-mounted motion detectors, and electrified fences, all designed to keep prisoners out of the neighborhood and in the building. Mayor Primus says the prison has a $2 million payroll and will pay $1 million to Camden in lieu of taxes.
We can just take the employment. And in a city like Camden, every job that we get is important. The prison will also buy from local small business people outside of the state's bidding laws, whether it's fruit or drugstores or a local hardware store. And we expect that'll be about $500,000 a year.
Carlos Collazo of the Concerned Citizens of North Camden was one of the original protesters against the prison, and he still doesn't like the idea.
The prison, I know, needs to be built, but about improving, see any improvement in the community, I don't see that the prison will do that. I think money should be used on trying to fix up housing, give it jobs to people and stuff, but a prison.
Mayor Primus says Camden's waterfront is coming back, and this prison is a part of that revitalization. Now, many people may not see a prison as urban renewal, but the fact is, before this $31 million building was built, this area was nothing more than a trash-strewn lot. I'm Cathy Gandolfo, Channel 6 Action News, Camden, New Jersey.
In Tampa, Florida, they're calling it a tragic mistake combined with a brutal crime. 2 students at the University of South Florida witnessed a 50-year-old secretary being raped and strangled in a locked classroom. But neither intervened because they mistook the incident for what they called some afternoon whoopee, quote unquote. Said one of the witnesses, none of us suspected a thing. There was no indication she was in any distress. Said the other witness, to be 2 feet away from something like that, it's heart-wrenching. The witnesses were able to identify a suspect. An engineering student has been arrested and charged with sexual battery and murder. Still to come on Action News tonight, the Phillies went into the red-hot Mets at Shea Stadium in New York. John Tollefson has the game story. Dave Roberts with the 5-day forecast. AccuWeather and more when Action News continues. The nation's capital, the scene of a massive protest today against the South African government. Anti-apartheid activists gathered at the Washington Monument, where protesters called on the Reagan administration to enact stiff sanctions against the government of South Africa.
And while we mourn those who have died in this great cause, we also carry a message to the State Department that we expect our government to make our national policy consistent with our national ideals.
And then more than 5,000 people took to the streets, including movie stars, civil rights leaders, and political figures. They carried cardboard coffins to the State Department, calling the procession a substitute for the funeral rallies that have been banned in South Africa. Meanwhile, in South Africa today, scores of black and white university students joined forces to protest apartheid. After several warnings to disperse, police charged the crowd with whips and tear gas. In other areas, police shot and killed 3 blacks in clashes with stone-throwing crowds. Pretoria is expected to announce some reforms this week to ease the tension, but many doubt the reforms will be sufficient enough to stem the racial violence. Word tonight that the Chinese have developed a new method of birth control. The procedure for women uses an injection of a hormone derivative that lasts 1 month. Officials say there are no side effects associated with the injection and that it should go a long way in keeping the world's most populous nation under 1.2 billion people by the end of the century.
By Lynn Redgrave.
Food was to me, and is, or potentially is to me, the same way I think as people who have a problem with alcohol.
Pamela Mason.
But I wasn't like a teenager. I wasn't having the fun that teenagers presumably have if they do. But I was, because I was always a married woman. But so that meant I was sneaking around rather than being out in the open.
Best-selling author Jackie Collins.
Merv Griffin, tomorrow at 4 on Channel 6.
Mets still on a roll. Phillies still frustrated. Here's Don Tollefson.
Yeah, the Mets just cannot lose. They almost lost one in dramatic fashion, though, but not quite, Jim. Phils did almost pull off an incredible game-saving rally in the 9th, but as with so many things this troubled season, they fell just short. Keith Hernandez is one of the hottest Mets on a very hot team, and tonight Keith had 3 more RBIs, plus played some great defense at first. He drives in a run there. Then watch Wally Backman break a bat, but he got an RBI on the play, even though his cause was helped by some Phil's sloppiness. an ongoing problem again tonight. Sid Fernandez was sailing along. He struck out 13. A lot of them got caught looking and allowed only one hit over the first 8. But in the 9th, after Rick Shue had doubled, Mike Schmidt gets a bunt single. The Mets go to the bullpen, and reliever Roger McDowell gives up a 3-run homer to Glenn Wilson. Phil's within 1 at 4-3. But Jesse Orozco comes out of the pen, closes the door. It ends 4-3. The Mets have won 8 in a row, 29 of their last 36. On the scoreboard in the National League, the Cubs win as Larry Bowa is given his outright release. St. Louis beating Pittsburgh, San Diego, and Cincinnati scoreless midway through. Tonight in Chicago, a big celebration for a job well done. Tom Seaver honored for win number 308 days ago, and his whole family got to share in the glow as the White Sox faithful pay their respects to an all-time great. Tom Seaver night tonight. He even got a new car at Comiskey in Chi-Town. He'll give it to his daughter. But the Yankees are spoiling the celebration up in the 7th. Mark Gubicza beats Boston tonight. Cleveland has beaten Baltimore. Now that the Eagles have a win under their belts, the next preseason priority is to sign some of the holdouts. But word from Westchester is there's no major progress to report. So for now, the Eagles remain as is, missing a number of veterans plus top pick Kevin Allen. Still, there is much optimism after that big Saturday night win over the Jets, and Gary Papa has more from the Birds training camp in Westchester.
Monday morning, and it's back to work for the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, much of today will be spent talking about how well they played on Saturday. In particular, running back Michael Haddix. He was a #1 draft choice 3 years ago, but his first 2 years, he didn't do much more than this. But on Saturday, he bolted for 58 yards on 15 carries. And without Wilbert Montgomery around, Haddix has to produce right now. And finally, he is.
I think he's, again, getting the experience to make the right moves. He's more decisive now than I've ever seen him.
During his first 2 years, he was bounced from fullback to halfback and back again. But now, in the one-back attack, Haddix is it.
At times, I was moved around, place here, place there, not played at all. And I think all I need to do now is play and get that experience and a game-type experience, and things will work out a lot better.
Eagle fans have yet to see the real Michael Haddix, I take it, then.
I think so.
And perhaps right now, Michael Haddix is ready to produce as a #1 draft choice. I'm Gary Papa, Channel 6 Action News with the Eagles at Westchester State University.
All right, and the Sixers, Jim, assures nothing major wrong with Andrew Toney. They put a walking cast on a sprained right ankle. He was bothered by a left ankle all year. They say by the end of September when camp opens, he should be 100%.
All right, Don.
Okay.
Some would say this, I'm not sure I agree, but some would say big spenders are well known for being able to win dates. But one man from North Jersey has discovered that he can find dates with $1 bills. The Little Falls, New Jersey resident types his name, phone number, and a message on dollar bills, and he puts them in change machines to circulate them around. The 36-year-old says he has sent out $13,000 bills in the past 17 years. In the past 5 years alone, his telephone answering machine has racked up 36,000 calls. Although he has spent hours on the phone with women, he has met just 23 of them, and he's still single. Fellow from North Jersey with this little system he has, it's intriguing, but I made a mistake. I said he met 23 women. No, he had 23 dates. 3 of them were with change machines. You see, he put the money in the change machines. Okay. A failed effort. Let's go to Dave Robertson, the AccuWeather forecast.
Very good attempt, Phil. That was an excellent attempt.
No, it was mediocre. No,
yes, it was. It was mediocre. You're right. I'll agree with that. No. All right. Tonight, this was the scene in Morrisville, Pennsylvania, because these people, courtesy of the Franklin Institute, took their families out to Pennsbury Manor, which once was the home of William Penn, to take a look at the meteor show that's going to be playing tonight throughout the area. And last night, the little guy gets a look at the telescope. Best time to view the meteors will be between midnight and 4 a.m. when all of these people will, I'm sure, be fast asleep. Thank you, Franklin Institute. All right, high pressure system moving in the vicinity, actually moving away from Montreal by tomorrow, kind of bends down to New England, going to produce another very nice day here throughout the entire tri-state area. Yes, it will be on the warm side, but the humidity will be very, very comfortable, so it's going to be another very nice day. Not as pleasant as today. I mean, we had clear blue sky. You were hard-pressed to find any cloud cover at all today. Tomorrow you may see a couple of clouds in there, but all in all, just an excellent day. Frontal system is to our south. Major storm system coming out of Minnesota and the Dakotas tonight. Heavy thunderstorms reported throughout Wisconsin and Minnesota and Iowa, with some tornadoes reported throughout sections of Iowa. We do not have to be concerned about that system. This is our weather maker. To the south, the hot stuff stays down there, 93 in New Orleans today, 96 in Dallas-Fort Worth. By Wednesday, as this system continues to move away from us, we're going to tap a little bit of this stuff, and you'll see it reflected in the 5-day when it says hot and humid. To the west, we go cooler temperatures along the northern plain states with this frontal system here. 25 degrees. That was the cold spot in the adjacent 48 in Stanley, Idaho. 108 in DV, Death Valley. So if you like today, you're going to like tomorrow. So keep it coming. We're going to do that. 65 degrees is our low. 84 was the high, came shortly after 3 this afternoon. There's the water temperature, 74 northeasterly winds, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow in the northeast, 67, 68 outside the station, 72 at the airport, same for Camden. Humidity comfortable. The barometer's on the rise for tonight. What a gorgeous night. Clear. 57 to 66 temperature range in the morning, about rush hour. Sunshine, 62, 70 again. The temperature spread. Sunshine again tomorrow. Very nice. 86 degrees. Hazy sun and hot on Wednesday. 90 degrees. Hot and humid on Thursday. 90, 86, 86 Friday through Saturday. Another beauty is on the way for tomorrow. The weather's not bad either.
And David, the glorious sounds of gospel delighted the crowd tonight at the Robin Hood Dell. The Dell presented a gospel extravaganza featuring some of the best in the business. One of the highlights, a performance by Dorothy Norwood, known as the storyteller of gospel. Norwood's strong voice, his backup stars like Mahalia Jackson, even Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. 20 years ago, she got her start as a solo performer. She's still going strong today. Dorothy Norwood tonight. Nightline next on Channel 6. Action News continues at 6 a.m. and then at noon with Chris Wagner, Harry Martin, and Robin Garrison. Now for Dave Roberts, Don Tollefson, and the entire Action News team, I'm Jim Gardner. Have a good night tonight.
From Channel 6, this has been Action News, the most watched news program in the Delaware Valley. When you see news happening, call the Action News tip line by dialing News 6. In New Jersey, dial 966-6666. And in our Trenton Bureau, 396-6666.